All right. So I know that a lot of us struggle with factoring, so I'm going to give you my factoring breakdown. So I'm going to go ahead and break down. I have a polynomial here. I have x squared minus 3x minus 40. Okay. So we recognize that this is a polynomial that has ax squared plus bx plus c. And it's in this format. So the first thing we're going to do is we're actually going to be playing a little game. And so I have this little x right here. I'm going to write a b plus here, and I'm going to write an ac dot here. So I notice that I have this format here, and it's an ax squared plus bx plus c. And I'm going to go ahead and there we go. Just trying to make sure that I can see my screen. Okay. First I'm going to do is I'm going to identify my a, b, and c from this format right here. So what is going to be my a? A is 1 because it's 1x squared. You really don't see the 1 because it's like me saying, today I ate an apple. How many apples did I eat? I ate 1, but I didn't tell you I ate 1 apple. I said an apple. So it's kind of that same thing. X squared implies 1x squared. So my a is 1, my b is negative 3, and my c is negative 40. So that's my very first step, is identify A, B, and C. So once I do that, I'm going to put my B, which is negative 3, here, and 8 times C. 1 times negative 40 is negative 40. Okay, so now I'm going to play a game. The game is the following. Give me two numbers. So I'm going to call this guy right here, we'll call this the happy face side, and we'll call this the corazoncito side over here. Okay, so these two numbers must add up to negative 3, and those same two numbers must multiply to negative 40. So, what two numbers is that going to be? Let's see. I think, well, let's see. What the easiest way to think about it is like, what are the factors that give me 40 or negative 40? So I know 8 and 5 give me 40. 8 times negative 5 gives me negative 40, but 8 plus negative 5 gives me positive 3. But what about negative 8 and positive 5? Negative 8 plus 5, let's see. This is how I check it. So negative 8 times positive 5 gives me negative 40. Check, check. And let's check it up here. Negative 8 plus 5, what does that give me? Negative 3. Check, check. So now my numbers are correct. So notice that I called this the happy face number. I called this guy the corazoncito number. Cool. Here's the most important step. I am now going to do a backwards box, which means I'm starting from the inside and I'm working myself outside. When I showed you the box method, you started with factors and you found the product. We were on the outside and then we found the inside. I'm going to go backwards now, which means I'm going to take a product and then I'm going to find the factors. So, very first thing I got to do is I'm going to label this so that you know exactly where to put what. So this one right here is always going to be your ax squared number. This guy right here is always going to be your c. And these two will always be the happy face and the corazoncito, okay, with the variable x, or with the variable of the middle number, okay? So if you notice that I do this little triangle right here, it's because I always say these two numbers will always have the variable of b. It's the variable of b, x. That's why I put a little x right there, okay? So let's begin. So what's ax squared? My ax squared is just x squared, right? Because ax squared is just x squared right there. What's my c? My c is negative 40. So I'm just going to write it right there. And then I'm going to say, okay, now I'm going to put in my happy face and my corazoncito, but I'm going to attach that variable x because, you know, that little triangle said attach that variable x. So I have negative 8x and I have positive 5x. Cool? Here's the most important step with doing this is right here. Notice what I'm going to say. I'm just at this little row right here, and I'm going to say, What do these two guys have in common? What is a common factor between positive 5x and x squared? If you say x, that's correct. So x is a common factor between them because they both have it. So now that's all I needed to do. The rest, I'm going to look at x times what gives me x squared. That's going to be an x. Then again, I'm going to say x times what gives me positive 5x. Okay, positive 5. Awesome. And I'm going to say the same thing over here. X times what gives me negative 8x? Negative 8. Okay. And then I'm going to say negative 8 times positive 5. Does it give me negative 40? Bam, it does. And guess what? We just found the factors right there. There's one. Here's the other one. So my factors here, I'm now taking that from standard form and now putting it into factored form. I just found the factors, x minus 8 and x plus 5 right there. So I'm going to give you one more example because, you know, this seems simple. People say, oh, well, I could have just found it from here. But I really need you to really understand the backwards box because sometimes your polynomial may have a leading coefficient a that's greater than 1. So I'm going to do another example real quick. You can see that one. So here we go. I'm going to take now 3x squared plus 20x minus 7. Okay? Again, remember we have that ax squared bx plus bx plus c. So I'll put it here so we can see it. And so the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say, what is A, what is B, what is C? So I recognize that my A is 3 because it's now 3. It's no longer a 1. My B is a positive 20. And my C is a negative 7. So again, coming back to my little game, very first thing I got to do, okay. I always label this because whenever you don't label and you don't really understand what this process is just yet, you get stuck. So if you label, it actually tells you what to do. So again, I'm going to put my B. What's my B? 20. And then I'm going to multiply A times C. So 3 times negative 7 gives me negative 21. Cool. So again, I'm going to look for two numbers. So my happy face number and my corazoncito number that when I add, they give me 20. But when I multiply, they give me negative 21. Okay? So what do you think it's going to be? Let's see. What about 21 and 1? 21 times 1 is 21. And if 21 times negative 1, actually, let's see. 21 and negative 1. So let's check it. Check. Is 21 times negative 1 equal to negative 21? Yes. And let's check this one. Is 21 plus negative 1, and I'll put that in parentheses, that's okay. 21 plus negative 1 gives me 20. Check, check. So my number's checked out. Awesome. I'm now going to go ahead and do my backwards box. So backwards box. I like to do those little double lines because it helps me visualize what's my factors and what are my products. So again, remember, the first top corner is always going to be your ax squared. Your bottom corner here is always going to be your c. This guy is always going to be your happy face with the variable of b, because the variable of b is x, and your corazoncito with the variable of b. Cool? I'm going to go ahead and now plug those in. So I have ax squared is 3x squared. My c is negative 7. My happy face with an x is going to be positive 21x. And my corazoncito with an x is negative 1x. Cool. So there I go. I found all my values. And now I'm going to say, what do these guys have in common? They just have an x in common. They can't have a 3 because that guy doesn't work with the 3, but they do have an x that's in common. Cool. So now I go x times what gives me 3x squared? X times what gives me 3x squared? And if you say 3x, you are correct. Awesome. X times what gives me negative 1x? Negative 1. Awesome. And then 3x times what gives me positive 21x? And that's going to be a positive 7. And then 7 times negative 1, does it give me negative 7? Yes. So voila, I just found my factors, which means from standard form to factor form, I say my factors are 3x minus 1 and x plus 7. And that is factoring using the box. I hope you enjoyed. See you later.